The following podcast is brought to you on behalf of the Saracen Supporters Association and is not an official product of Saracens Limited. Content provided voluntarily by our guests and contributors are of their own opinion, which may change over time and should not be taken as fact, particularly as the podcast hosts are regularly talking drivel anyway. If you've got some drivel of your own you'd like to share, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at fezcast_SSA. You can search Facebook for the Fezcast, or you can email fezcast.ssa@outlook.com.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Fezcast, Season 3, Episode 8. Plenty to chat about with Matt, the newly married Bartlett, who's managed... how you've done this, Matt, you know, going on honeymoon and or having a honeymoon or whatever, or not having a honeymoon that involves going to 2 games of rugby and speaking to us on the Fezcast. Geez, I have no idea how you've done that, Matt. And obviously Barry Payne has joined us as well. But I mean, welcome to you both. But Matt, yeah, how do you do that?
Well, she's not coming with me. So no, very understanding. But yeah, I don't know how I've managed it. I've punched well above my weight, and I'll continue to do so for as long as I can. But there we go.
If you do work it out, please bottle it, because as I explained, I was not too popular on Saturday when I came home, having had a few.
Yeah, how many years have you been married, Barry?
Oh, that's not a question you want to ask.
Fair dues. Well, look, as I say, we've got plenty to talk about. Plenty of parts. We were hoping to have an interview. Unfortunately, that's gone by the board this week, but hopefully it'll be in place for next week. More of that later on in the week. It's just getting people in the same place at the same time, in the same, and not being called up by Eddie Jones, who's after, but give you a clue of who should have been on it. But we've got to talk about the women, both domestically and internationally in part 1. Part 2, we're going to talk about Ben Earl and keyboard warriors. And then part 3, we're going to discuss Saracens versus Bath. Look forward to Chiefs, and also a little bit about London Irish tonight in the Premiership Cup, which both you and two are going to tonight, and you're going to record a bit afterwards with hopefully not too many beers inside you, reviewing whatever happens tonight.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, won't we? But yeah, there's plenty to go on today, isn't there? So best crack on.
Absolutely. Well, look, let's talk about the women. First of all, domestically, had a big win away at Sale in the Cup. But the big thing is Vicky Fleetwood, Fleeto. Joe, our fellow Fezcast contributor, got a message from Vicky saying, you know, she'd had a real bad injury, which is a leg break and a dislocated ankle. And, you know, obviously, Vicky's not in a great place, so missed out on World Cup selection, which must have been a big, you know, disappointment to her. She was well in the frame for that, and then to get an injury in the first game after that. I mean, lockdown, you know, say bad things come in free. I mean, I think she'll probably be wrapping herself up in bubble wrap now and keeping her head down for a little while. I say Joe's been messaging Vicky and then, you know, passing on our good wishes, and we'll say that here now. You know, we obviously hope that Vicky's has a very rapid recovery, but, you know, signs weren't good. I think Joe mentioned this morning when she spoke to me that it was worse than Abby Dowd's injury, and we know how bad that one was, and, you know, what a struggle it's been for Abby to get back into England recognition. So, yeah, our thoughts go out to Fleeto and hope that, you know, everything goes well with her, but not nice to see at all, is it, guys?
No, it's... Sorry, it's definitely not good news. As you say, coming on top of the disappointment and missing out on the World Cup, to find yourself that happening on a match when you might have expected to be playing somewhere else in a slightly different environment is obviously terribly disappointing for her. But we know she'll be back. We know that, or rather, we have complete faith in her ability to get through this and to overcome it. And, you know, you use the example of Abby Dow. Well, you know, take inspiration from that, Vicky, if you can. You know, do whatever it takes to whatever the medics tell you to do. And we look forward to seeing you back, hopefully fully recovered and as soon as possible.
Yeah, well, one, I'm not going to call it a positive, but the one thing she has got going for her, well, two, is that she's still got access to the England camps, medical setup. She's got probably the best help possible in the women's game at the moment to help her recover from those injuries. And I think strength and conditioning are two of her middle names, really. So if anyone's going to bounce back from a serious injury, it is potentially Vicky Fleetwood. But yeah, as you say, it's a rotten month or so for her, and we're all behind her with a recovery. We seem to get one serious injury a year at least within the Saracens women's camp, after Georgia Evans last year smashing her arm to bits. So it's Fleetwood's turn this time. Yeah, so let's all get behind her. Hopefully back as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Moving on to the World Cup, news of another injury that followed the England-France game, and the French scrum half Santos, who was going to retire anyway at the end of the World Cup, picked up a bad knee ligament injury against England. That has ended her participation, not only in this World Cup, but in the game of rugby as a whole, which again is, not the way that you'd want to see a really good player like her go out. The interesting thing was obviously on the weekend that she was replaced at scrum half by the reserve scrum half, who also happens to be her partner, which is a really unusual situation, isn't it? You must be sat there thinking, how am I going to get my chance on the pitch? And then your partner gets injured like that, and it's suddenly your big chance. I mean, that's well interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a story that sort of came into the public eye in the last couple of weeks. So they've been together for a while, but under the radar a bit. And it's it's a real shame actually that sort of healthy competition has only really been public for a couple of weeks, and has now sort of it's had to stop. But they're both very talented scrum halves, and the dynamic between the two of them on the pitch or within the team and at home must be very interesting. It would have been great to sort of see more of that develop in the public eye a bit. But real shame for her. And France, with or without Santos, did sort of show that they are a real threat in this World Cup, and would be worthy winners if they get there. So definitely a warning shot for England, who sort of maybe lacked a little bit of creativity, I think.
Well, this is the interesting thing about it. I mean, the first thing I'll say is that France defended admirably. Were they completely legal the whole time? I would question it. As we have often said, we don't criticise referees. All I will say is, if I was refereeing it, and bearing in mind that I do not have the experience of Joy Neville one little bit, but I think I would have refereed it somewhat differently to Joy Neville. And I think that the French, like in the Wales-Scotland game the week before, I think there were a few yellow cards left in pockets in that game potentially. But, you play to what the referee decides. England did do enough to win. France had one attacking moment, really, that they exploited. And, it was one of those attacking moments that could easily have gone wrong. It just, the French fly half, who'd been kicking aimlessly pretty much all of the game, too long, into touch on the fall on more than one occasion, suddenly got one right, bounced up nicely for the winger, and in they go. I mean, that's the way it is. So, I mean, they did one thing brilliantly in attack, but they defended. I don't think when England play teams like New Zealand, for instance, they'll be as a defence-minded. They'll be more open. They'll be more attacking, and therefore more space. France obviously set their stall out to almost keep the score down, I think, which won't happen against other sides, I don't believe. Well, we'll wait and see. Got South Africa on the weekends. That should be an opportunity to run through lots of moves and work from there. What's your thoughts, Barry?
I think from what I've heard, Simon Middleton plans to make a few changes for the third game as well. He was always going to keep more or less the same side for games 1 and 2, but I think there'll be some changes for the South Africa game. You've got to say that, as you said, France were absolutely superb in defence. I mean, that they tackled everything and kept winning the gain line. Not always legally, as you alluded to, but if the referee doesn't give it, you get away with it. So well done to them. They were exceptionally tenacious. They obviously will almost certainly qualify for the next stage if they. I think they have already now, haven't they? So they'll be through. They'll pose some teams some problems if they carry on playing like that. We will have some work to do on defence, looking at their try. Without wishing to take too much away from France, it was a little bit of ball watching I felt by England, and as that kick came across, and stuff for us to work on there. But we will be better as the tournament goes on. There is no point peaking in games 1 and 2 in a knockout in a tournament like the World Cup. We need to be peaking in 3-4 weeks' time when the serious stuff starts.
You're listening to the Fezcast, which is proudly sponsored by the Saracens Supporters Association, and I'm Alison Davis, one of the SSA committee. For a £10 annual subscription, the SSA provides our members with monthly newsletters, virtual and in-person player events, away match ticket allocations, and we organise pre-match gatherings at away matches. We sponsor men's and women's players, and we support the Saracens Foundation Track Club on behalf of our members. On top of all that, every year we have a seasonal SSA badge, which is exclusive to members. Where else can you get that much value for a tenner? Join now at membermojo.co.uk/SSA, or come and see us on match day in the Oasis at the StoneX.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, welcome back to part 2 of this week's Fezcast with Barry, Matt and myself, and time to discuss the signing of a big contract from one of our superstars, basically. Ben Earl reported just shy of £500,000 a year, which obviously has got all the keyboard warriors out in force, questioning the salary cap again. We'll discuss that a bit further. But yeah, great to see him signing, and absolutely top trolling from him of the Bristol Bears as well as on the internet. I mean, what were your thoughts, Matt?
Yeah, the first thing to say is, some people have got a little bit wound up by Bristol's signing of Max Malins and then sort of talking about Ben Earl and things, and then our response to it. I that really needs to, because I think you look at the state of rugby at the moment, I think that social media engagement and getting people more interested in rugby, that is exactly the way to do it. So full credit to the media guys at Bristol and at Saracens. I've got absolutely no doubt that they've actually talked to each other about what they're doing, and they've sort of worked together to create that little bit. I think it's brilliant. So full credit to them there, and everyone that's upset with it, shut up. But yeah, Ben Earl re-signing. I think it's something that we spoke about when the news broke about Max Malins. There was a very tentative suggestion from a couple of us that if we had to keep one or the other, we would potentially prefer to keep Ben Earl over Max. I didn't expect it to happen this quickly, but it is all happening very early, these new re-signs, and I'm absolutely ecstatic, to be honest. I think he's, for the last year or so, he's been potentially our best player. It's an easy thing to say because he was voted the best player of last season, and he's going from strength to strength. And Eddie Jones can continue to stay completely blind to how good he is, because the more we have him, the better, really. Yeah, absolutely chuffed. It's brilliant.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned Eddie Jones there and the England squad, and yeah, it's one of those questions, isn't it? Him and Elliot Daly this season, what more do they have to do to get included? We'll discuss other centres, wingers, fullbacks, maybe, when we talk about the Saracens Bath game in relation to Elliot. But yeah, Ben Earl, Sam Underhill gets picked, hasn't been, and then pulls out because he's injured, because he's always flipping injured. Ben Earl is a far better all-round player, I feel, than Sam Underhill. I'd even say he's better than Tom Curry. It's just incongruous to me that Eddie Jones cannot see it. But then again, it's because everybody's telling Eddie Jones that Ben Earl should be there. So Eddie Jones, being the bloody-minded idiot that he is, will do the absolute opposite. So, yeah, there you go. Got that one off my chest, Barry.
Yeah, but you are right. The more the pundits and the more the public call for a player, the less likely they seem to be selected by Eddie. He's clearly got something in his bonnet about certain players, and he just won't pick them.
Yeah, absolutely. I just don't understand it. But we did allude to it as well. It's a big contract for Ben, deserved, I think. The salary cap keyboard warriors were out again, pointing out that Saracens play 5 players, more than 3 million quid. So how do they play the rest of them? 2 of the players, right, let's just get this out. 2 of the players currently are exempt because they're marquee players, Owen Farrell and Maro Itoje. That takes $1.5 million, 2 million, almost 2 million quid out of the pot. Billy Vunipola, Maka Vunipola, Ben Earl, and the rest of them. Let's look at the facts. After the World Cup next year, there will be a complete and utter readjustment. Some of those players, they'll know that this is their last international. They will likely be looking to move on. It's one of those things. Rock.co.uk come out all the time and say Maro Itoje is off to France or he's off to Japan. There's possibly a pretty good chance that may well happen because Saracens are going to have to cut their cloth accordingly. And they won't be able to have 2 marquee players. So potentially Maro could go after the World Cup and say, right, I'm going to go and earn my money. It's one of those things that could happen. Regardless, the people behind who are signing the checks, as we know, and as I've been sharing the interview we did with Lucy Ray, they have the speed dial, the salary cap manager on speed dial. They are doing the right things. Mako, Billy are going to be coming towards the end of their career. They potentially could be moving. Mako's 32 years old after the end of the World Cup. He's never going to play another World Cup again. If he was to go off to France, we've got lots of props coming through. It will all be covered off. We are not breaking the salary cap. And if we are breaking the salary cap, then as I said to everybody, it'll be us who'll be the ones moaning the most. But we're confident, we've spoken to the people that are there, it's not happening. So please do shut up. That's the second load of people we told to shut up, Matt.
I'm doing quite well at that at the moment. But the other thing we've got to look at as well is I've got a rough list from a while. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 players who are all out of contract at the end of this season. They ain't all going to sign a deal. Ben Earl signed a big one. Someone else is going to have to go. Max Malins has already gone. Vinnie Cock went last year. There's some big names on that list as well. And there's some that are probably on a reasonable amount of money and are probably done at the end of the season. The likes of Alex Good, Sean Maitland, I shouldn't write them all off now, but I might do. Jackson Ray's another one. Is he going to sign another deal? And if he does, it's probably going to be cut price. Jamie George, we think, has only got 1 year left as well. Is he going to take a lower wedge? Every single one of our scrum halves, all out of contract at the end of the season. Are we going to keep Davis, Van Zyl and De Haas? Maybe, maybe not. There's so much more to happen. Potentially the fact that Ben Earl has signed a new deal and a bigger deal means that one more player might be leaving than we expected. But that's not going to come out yet. If they don't sign a deal with another club, we're not going to find out who's leaving until the end of the season. So talk to us in the summer. Tell us we're over the cap in the summer once it's all played out.
Absolutely. Now, talking about caps as well, this is going to get me another rant. And Eddie Jones has often been on the end of a rant, but Andy Good is someone who's going to get on a rant. So Wasps, Worcester, we've done them to death. We've talked about them incessantly because it's happening. We've had to go at Lawrence Delanio. Worcester had gone under, Wasps have gone under. Andy Good's now come out and say the reason that Wasps have gone under is because Saracens were paying too much for their players over the last 10 years and that they had to spend money to compete. No. Andy Good, the reason Wasps went out of business is because they allowed venture capitalists in who were only interested in lands, stadiums, casinos and hotels, and took out a £35 million bond that they had absolutely no chance of ever repaying. It's nothing to do with Saracens paying too much money. Can we get that one crossed off, ticked off, shoved in file 13? Am I wrong, Barry?
Yeah, no, you're not. I mean, it's a ridiculous suggestion to. I mean, Wasps' problems started long before they moved to Coventry, anyway. But to suggest that they're somehow inexorably linked with our salary cap issues is frankly ridiculous. And that particular pundit has clearly got an issue with us because he's never been anything other than aggressive in his criticism of Saracens. There's not been an awful lot of love for one of his former. I mean, he's had more clubs than Nick Faldo, for crying out loud. But we are one of his former clubs. You'd be hard pressed to to know it if you listen to him. He's got an issue with us, and he's going to blame us for everything. But we didn't force them to take out a commercially unviable bond to buy a stadium that they can't fill 90 odd miles away from where they're supposed to flip in play. That's got nothing to do with us whatsoever.
No, absolutely not. And yeah, you're right about Andy Goode. Yes, he did take a wage at Saracens. I'm loath to say he actually played. I think he probably put in about 12 minutes worth of performances over a season. He never wanted to be at the club. He never wanted to leave Tigers, and he couldn't get back there quick enough. Simple as. Right, okay. We've done that to death as well, I think. We need to calm down now, have an ad break, and then come back and calmly talk about Saracens versus Bath. That's not going to happen, is it, either?
Yeah, best of luck, everyone.
Hi guys, I'm Alex Linton and I'm a proud Looseheads ambassador.
I'm Sydney Gregson and I'm a Looseheads ambassador.
We're a rugby mental health charity working to tackle the stigma. You can find us at Looseheads on all social media channels or at looseheads.co.uk.
The Looseheads mission is to place a mental health lead at every rugby club. Get in touch now to find out more. Take care and enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Enjoy the rest of the pod.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, okay, part 3 of our episode 8 of season 3 of the Fezcast with me, Jez, Matt and Barry, and time to talk about Saracens versus Bath. You two guys are at the game. I watched it on PRTV. I will say this right now. I think that Saracens got their try early doors via Alex Goode, and a great try it was too, and they thought they'd won the game and it was going to be a cricket score. And a level of complacency seeped into the performance that they managed to, we're being hypercritical here. They did get a bonus point win. We are still top of the table. We are, getting bonus points in every game we're playing. But Bath really did take Saracens to the wire and shouldn't have taken Saracens to the wire. We put our foot on their throat early doors and then we took it off. And it was at points, I don't honestly think by the end of the game, if Bath had scored that try, that hadn't been disallowed for the minuscule knock on by the scrum half, and it was minuscule. And, another day that could easily have stood. I don't think there'd been anybody in the ground or anybody watching on the PRTV who would have turned around and said Bath did not deserve to win that game.
No, someone on social media put it quite well over the weekend. They said that the better side lost, and that does occasionally happen in sport. We, for winning 5 straight games with maximum bonus points and still being top of the table, we looked pretty average on Saturday. We made enough mistakes to keep Bath interested. They played absolutely well beyond anything that they've managed this season that I've seen anyway. And Ollie Lawrence is an absolute menace. And why we suddenly decided that tackling was optional as opposed to rather required every time he got the ball was frankly beyond me. But no, we couldn't have complained if we'd lost that. How on earth we managed to do that, being 20 points up with 20 minutes to go, I will never know.
Absolutely. It's interesting you mentioned Ollie Lawrence, because the 3 names that got put out for player of the match on the Saracens Twitter and websites and whatever was Owen Farrell, who got man of the match. And I'm with Matt on this one. He's just pulled a face. I thought it was Owen's worst game in a long time. I really didn't think that they were on a wavelength with him and Ivan Van Zyl and Alex Lewandowski outside him. Alex, I've been a little bit sorry for coming in late with a positional change because of Nick Tompkins going down and having to play like Nick Tompkins when it wasn't really his game. But yeah, everything just went wrong. The other 2 names was KP at hooker, who I thought had a good game, and then had a couple of mistakes as well that really did ruin it. I mean, there's a couple of throws to the line out that went wrong. And Murrow had a good game. There's no two ways about it. Murrow does what Murrow does. And considering he's been out for a while, he came back in and he was an absolute nuisance at breakdown time and everything. But yeah, Ollie Lawrence, I very rarely would ever give player of the match to a player who was on the losing side, but he was the outstanding performance. And I think if they put Ollie Lawrence on the choices, I think there would have been an awful lot of Saracens fans who would actually have voted for him.
Yeah.
What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Owen Farrell got given our player of the match by the fans on social media, I think for possibly about 10 seconds of crucial play, which won the game for us, to be fair. The interception towards the end, with the Bath side steaming towards the try line. Brilliant bit of play. So I can't fault him for that. And his kicking from the tee was very good. But the first half that he had, I was thinking you got to take him off. He had hands with soap all over them, clearly. And yeah, it's just very, very unusual for him. There were players as well. I mean, I'm going to mention Theo McFarland again because I've got to be in my bonnet about his play. But the issue he's got now is he's had so many good games with these really good highlights reels. Other than the late try where he broke through and put Max Malins in, I didn't actually realise he was on the pitch. Now, that might just be because he was having a decent game rather than a stunning one. But the likes of Theo, Billy Vunipola even, they were pretty absent, I think, during that. And yeah, Alex Lazowski, I do have some sympathy for him because he was thrown in at 12 at the very last minute. But he has played 12 before, but he was playing crash ball and was, I think, turned over every single time he took the ball into contact in the first half. It was very, very strange. So, yeah, there's a lot about our performance that I don't like. But also looking at the way Bath tactically played the game, they're committing 2 or 3 men to a tackle, which meant that we couldn't get the ball away and play that offloading game, trying to hold players up pretty much every single time they put a tackle in. And the way Ollie Lawrence played, it very nearly worked out for them. And yeah, we couldn't begrudge them the win. But you sort of mentioned it at the start. We've got 25 points from 5 games. We're top of the league. In a way, it's almost a good thing that we're sitting having this conversation as we are, that we're being picky about what wasn't a great performance, and yet we've still had quote-unquote perfect start to the season.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, they always used to say about the Alex Ferguson Manchester United sides, and go back in another football analogy, the Liverpool sides of the late 70s, 80s. The amount of games they won playing badly is the sign of a great side. And we've seen it with Saracens. We've seen it over the years with Leicester Tigers. When in their heyday, the amount of times they won games when they were playing badly is because they've got an aura of scoring. The question on Lazowski inside centre playing crash ball, it's all well and good if you've got crash ball, if you've got a physical specimen like Alex Lazowski being the first person to the breakdown. Once you got Ben Earl on the bench and Jackson Ray's perhaps lost a yard of pace and is playing open side when perhaps he should be playing blind side, that's where Lazowski was getting problems. You got Elliot Daly, played to Elliot Daly's strengths. Elliot is not going to be the player who's going to come in over the top and clear somebody out. He's going to be the one who's hanging around waiting for that gap to appear. So let's ship it out one more for him. And then you've got Elliot perhaps taking the contacts and Alex Lazowski coming in and giving him his bolt. I think we perhaps got that one slightly wrong. Maybe it was because it was a late change and, it was too late to adapt. But we mentioned Elliot Daly there, and I say he hasn't made the England squad again. Neither has Henry Slade. Did Ollie Lawrence make the squad? No. What outside centres have we got? Because Eddie's obviously got somebody in mind who, we know what he's got in mind. He's got Owen playing at 12 and Manu Tuilagi playing at 13. But Elliot's another player who really has worked really hard and got himself into a great position. And, obviously Eddie's decided that his international career is over. So what we do need to say is we need to have a quick look at Chiefs because they're coming up next. The one thing we know is that we hope that's our bad performance, our complacent performance out of the way. Because if we go to Sandy Park and are anywhere near as poor as we were in parts of that game, will be out for shellacking, I think. Is that fair, Barry?
Yeah, I think it is. I was just thinking when we were talking about it earlier, this weekend just gone, wasn't a bad weekend to have our little hiatus in terms of I think Mark McCall put it. He said we just didn't have the application there. We looked like a side who just thought, well, we've just got to turn up and put the shirts on, and we've won this game. And we certainly won't be going in with that attitude this weekend. Because we simply can't afford to, because Exeter have looked very good, back to their best probably from the times I've seen them this season, and they will be one heck of a challenge, especially at Sandy Park, a ground that's not always been a happy hunting place for us. But if we get our attitude right, and if we play like we have done on other occasions this season, we've got every chance of getting a decent result down there.
Absolutely, I think so. We've got Irish tonight. You two are going, and I'm going to record a review tonight with a couple of Guinnesses in your hand, no doubt, and whatever, after the game. Very quickly, what are you looking for? Because this competition has not been great for Saracens whatsoever. There's a few youngsters come through who have been blooded. That's got to be good. What I personally want to see is some of those youngsters who are in the next stage, you're between being a youngster and between being a first-team player, the skipper in particular, Manu Vinapola, really need to see those guys stepping up. Is that what you want to see tonight, guys?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see Manu's leadership on the pitch. Is he going around? Is he talking to people? Is he looking at what's going on? Is he making sure that he's handling the referee as well? Because that's an important part, and that is one thing actually that we do deserve credit for, because we got that spot. We've seemed to have almost addressed that this week. We were pretty much faultless, I think. I mean, there were penalties, but we weren't standing there arguing and pulling faces and shoveling out arms like we've seen other players do. So, but that will need to continue from Manu. And can we just get something out of this cup? I mean, it's fairly obvious that we're not really going to progress too far in it. But I think it will be interesting to see if we can get some of those players who are at the top end of that lower. That second string, if you like, and can they push on and really make a big claim for the first 15?
This is the Fezcast.
Hi, this is Jez from the Fezcast to tell you about another one of my passions. I love music, and I have my own radio podcast station, Tarka Blowpig Radio. This is the home of great music presented by myself and my friends, be it folk, rock, indie anthems, progressive music, you name it, we've got it covered. So if you want to listen to some great music, tune in to us at mixcloud.com/Tarka Blowpig.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
So yes, Barry and I are back again the day after our main recording, having played a Prem Cup match since, but also since we did that recording, the news has finally broken that Wasps have officially now gone into administration, and not good for Wasps themselves. And I think what we didn't really touch on previously is there's a much wider Wasps family involved as well, with the women's team and the Wasps netball team that are all wrapped up in that. So 167 people made redundant at the moment, which whichever way you look at it, and you put all fan rivalries and things aside, that's not good for rugby. It's not good for Wasps, but most importantly, it's not great for the Wasps community. So our sympathies are with everyone there, aren't they, Barry?
Yeah, absolutely. It's an awful situation, as we were just saying off air, as it were. There's no winners in an administration. There's only it's a question of how much you lose, and obviously those who've lost their jobs have effectively lost everything. I mean, I'm sure that the players at the top of it will find other employment, but there's all sorts of people underneath that. And I mean, already if you look on social media, you're seeing people punting out their CVs and saying, please, if anyone knows anything, get back to me. And we hope that all of those people get something sorted out quickly. And we hope that, given time, that Wasps can find a way out of this. And we look forward to seeing them back on the pitch again as soon as they can.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that goes for Wasps, for Worcester, and God forbid anyone else that finds themselves in that situation as well. And it's obviously a story that's going to rumble on for weeks and months and for the whole season, really. So we will be covering it on the Fezcast, but we'll do our absolute best not to be speculating too much about things that are going on and just deal with the facts as they arise. But we are here to talk about the Prem Cup match. I was there last night. Barry, you watched it from the comfort, hopefully, of your own sofa. So we've got two probably different perspectives on it from two different camera angles. What did you make of the game?
It wasn't really much of a match, really, was it? It was kind of men against boys, particularly in the first half. Very difficult for us to compete. I mean, you could just see by looking at the size of the London Irish players, they were several years further on in their development. The forwards fronted up well. I mean, bearing in mind they had an international front line playing for them, and were even able to bring on a four-cap Wallaby towards the end. I thought the forwards did well. It was just once they got the ball wide, there was some fairly what I might call buffet defending. Help yourselves, lads. And that kind of put us so far behind by half time. It was game over. And I mean, we did improve in the second half. We actually won the second half, but I think probably the Irish were taking their foot off the gas a little bit by then. And I mean, some good performances from Saracens. Ollie Stonham stood out, obviously. We had Mr. Reynolds West, who is not an estate agent, despite his name, and he's, I'm told, 18, although he looks about 12, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he's a little lad, isn't he? But he was on the wing in front of me in the stand, and I think he's your typical small rugby player. I think what he lacked in height and physicality, he made up for in energy. Basically, he was a bit of a live wire. He was constantly making noise, actually geeing the crowd up at one point. And this is very early on, but I actually saw a little bit of Rotimi Shegan about him. Rotimi is bigger than Charlie Reynolds West for sure, but someone who definitely punches above his weight, I think, in terms of physicality he brings to the game. So, and Mr. Reynolds West is exactly the same height as Cheslin Colby. So it doesn't mean you've got no future in rugby being a little fella, does it?
Absolutely not. He's definitely got a future there, and let's hope he continues to develop. He just needs to get a little bit more strength. I mean, he's certainly got plenty of heart and plenty of effort and some serious wheels as well. I mean, that try he scored, no one was catching him. No,
absolutely, yeah, it was definitely quick. But yeah, I mean, you sort of touched on the difference between the two sides. I mean, the London Irish team, there were some names that I didn't necessarily recognise, but going through the squad they had out, it was, yes, it might have been second or third string, but there were plenty of senior squad players. If you put aside their talent for 1 second, as you mentioned, they were all sort of 24, 25 years old, a lot of them, and regardless of how good our young players are, most of them were 5 years behind in terms of their development, in terms of strength and conditioning and things. So there was a challenge there as well. And actually, I overheard a couple of conversations from a couple of people, whether they were in the know or completely blagging it, I don't know at all. But a lot of the lads that we had out, particularly in our backs, who've only just stepped up into the academy from the under-18s and things, because we've got such a very small squad, they're basically the tackling bags for the first team. So they've not really had much of an opportunity, all of them, to actually even play together in training. Some of them even meeting for the first time, I think, pretty much in these cup matches. So it is understandable, I think, in a way, that defensively, as you say, we looked all over the place in the backs, really. But I definitely agree with you. We fronted up in the forwards. There's plenty of players that we've got that do have a future with us. These games are an opportunity to see that. And yeah, I think certainly in the second half we fronted up well, but we we kind of lacked ideas a bit in the first half, which was a little bit of a worry because for half an hour of that first half, we had Ruben De Haas and Manu Vunipola as our 9 and 10, which is they're going to play some senior games together over the coming months, I think. I don't know whether you've got much of an opinion on that at all, but it is a worry for me.
Yeah, we've mentioned Manu a few times on the pod, and we all really want to see him kick on and develop. I mean, a couple of years ago, we thought he was going to be a good player for us, but he's at the moment he just seems to be stuck, and whether that's lack of game time, whether that's just lack of a consistent run or not, I don't know, but he does seem to be a little bit stuck there, and you're right, there didn't seem to be a great deal of ideas or plan there certainly wasn't one that we could see yesterday. Before or after he went off, it just seemed to be we weren't kicking for possession, we weren't trying to pin them back, we just seemed to be sort of running and literally, I mean, we never, very rarely broke the actual gain line, so we never got front football, we never got their defence stressed, and as soon as we lost it, we were looking in trouble. I mean, you mentioned that it was mentioned yesterday at the game, both Declan Danaher and Kelly Brown on BT yesterday said that these players do not play enough together because there's no A-League, because there's nothing else outside of senior rugby. Obviously, some of them are on dual registrations and they play men's rugby and they'll develop that way, but they don't play as a team. And we looked like a team we'd met in the car park, to be honest with you, at one point yesterday.
Yeah. And that is where we start getting back into these discussions about, what the purpose of the cup is. The cup is. We know what the purpose of the cap is. The cup, even Saracens Freudian slip there. And the academy systems and where the league goes really with the state that we're in. But drag ourselves away from that quickly. Let's focus on some of the positives of the game. I picked up on a few. One I think was probably going to be a bit of a given. Eduardo Bello, our Argentinian international prop, came on and was very, very solid in the scrum. Actually looked quite tall for a prop from what I could see, but he definitely showed up pretty well. And then on the other side, Javon Warren, who started the game, I actually thought he was one of the players who did carry quite well into contact and make a few metres here and there. And Samson Adejimi, who came off the bench, who is a hooker but played at flanker, again brought a little bit of energy when he came on as well. So there's definitely players there. Some we expected, and some obviously much earlier in their careers. But yeah, there's definitely some positives to pick up in the forwards, isn't there?
Oh yeah, definitely. Then without labouring the point too much, they just need something in between academy and first team. Yeah, at some point to just push that development on. I mean, that's not just a Saracens or a Premiership thing. That's all the way through rugby. You can't come out of academy play and go straight into first team men's rugby at any level. Absolutely not. But
it's 3 losses out of 3 in the cup, really. But yeah, looking beyond the results, I think there is definitely still something we're getting out of it. Although it's not what we want, but there are lessons to be learnt. But we've done our bit here, really. We've looked ahead to next week as well. We've obviously got Exeter coming up, which is a big game, and the women are playing Loughborough in the cup as well, which should be pretty good as well. Back at the Stonex, and of course there is the Rugby World Cup still ongoing for the women. So plenty going on next week, and we'll be back again next Wednesday. Don't know who we're going to have on. We haven't quite flipped the coin yet on that one, but someone will be here, and we'll see what's going on again next week. So thank you very much, everyone, and thanks for Jez for doing most of the show earlier and leaving me to finish it off. Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, everyone, for listening.
This is the Fezcast.